Hi there, everyone, and welcome to week 7. You have made it this far, and I have really enjoyed our time together, and hopefully you have too. Now, what I want to say about this week as we look at the most important, I think, discussion that we can have is in relation to how we see God working in the Old Testament and how that applies and makes a difference to our lives today. And that essentially is the discussion about God keeping his covenant. If you were to study the Old Testament or become a Bible scholar, you'll know that the topic of a covenant is a crucial topic. It's one that's covered throughout the pages of Scripture. Very often theologians even base entire books and doctrines and dogmas on the basic understandings of the covenantal nature of the Bible. But for our purposes, I want us to think a little bit more personally. I'd like us to consider, why should we care about the covenants God made in the Bible? Why, for example, should we worry about the covenant God made to the nation of Israel through Moses and the prophets? What difference does that make to me? Well, hopefully the thread that you'll begin to see over the course of this week, and especially as you continue on your own study or perhaps even further studies in this topic, in the New Testament even, you'll see that if we can trust that God kept the commands, the promises that he made in the Old Testament to the people of Israel, then why can we not believe that he'd keep the promises he made to us? See, as we've learned along the way so far, we realize that there are many times that we make promises that we don't keep. There are many times that the nation of Israel made promises that they didn't keep. We know even people like Moses, who was a giant of the faith. He always didn't do the things that he said he was going to do. And you and I, if we're honest, we don't do that either. We very often say we're going to do something, we commit. When it comes to our relationship with God, we might say, well, I'm going to plan to go to church every week for this year, or I'm going to start reading my Bible every day, or I'm going to do devotions, or I'm going to tell other people about the gospel, or I'm going to become more serious about what it means to be a Christian. All those promises we make. And very often, we fail along the way. And sometimes we completely abandon the promise we've made. But the thing that's important for us to understand this week is that that is not what God is like. He keeps his promises. And sometimes he fulfills them years later. Sometimes he doesn't do it on the timeline that the people of the time would have preferred, and that, frankly, you and I would prefer. But God keeps his promises. He kept his promise to Abraham. He kept his promise to Moses and the people of Israel. And he keeps his promises to you and I. So this week, I'm asking you to reflect a little bit on the nature of covenant. What covenants has God made that you rely upon, that you rest on, that perhaps encourage and strengthen and challenge and deepen your own faith? And what covenants has God made in the Bible that you can trust in and be sure about today? I look forward to hearing your discussions and responses this week, and as well as putting some final touches on your signature paper, which will be due next week, and we'll talk a little bit more about that at the beginning of next week. But all the best to you, and I hope to hear from you if you have any questions or ideas and concerns this week. Blessings.